In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Pelikan M1000 fountain pen. I'll go over the specs, I'll do a writing sample, and I'll tell you what I like and don't like about the pen coming up. Blake here with Blake's Broadcast. On this channel, I review fountain pens, paper, and ink, and as always, I put links in the show notes in the description below. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, it really helps out my channel. Alright, let's get on with the review. This is the Pelikan M1000 fountain pen. This is the top of the line flagship pen of the Souverän or Souverän, I don't know how you say it in German, line. This is Pelikan's answer to the Montblanc 149 Meisterstück. Now, interestingly, this pen was released in 1997. I believe that's correct. It's about 50 years later than the Montblanc 149. I believe they had a 139 and a 138 before that. So Montblanc had been making big pens for a long time, and Pelikan really hadn't. It was really that smaller 400 size, that size pen like the M205 that I reviewed the demonstrator. I'll put a link up above for that. It was really these small, they weren't small at the time, they were full-size pens at the time, but they were, smaller than what we're used to now. So it's just kind of interesting. It took them this long to kind of have an answer to that Montblanc 149 pen. Anyway, this pen really maintains the proportions of that classic 400 pen, or M400 as they currently make. They just blew everything up, and it worked out, I think, really nicely. This pen looks really good. Let's walk through the pen. Up top we have the Pelikan bill clip, which is great, classic Pelikan, and then we kind of have this finial here which comes out. It's almost, I don't want to call it Art Deco, but it's just these flared kind of ring at the top here, and then we have the finial with the pelican feeding the chick up there, kind of etched. Looks pretty nice. Then on the cap rings, we have two cap rings. One says Germany, Pelikan, Souverän or Souverän. Two rings at the bottom here for at the piston knob, and you can kind of see the piston a little bit in here. Let's see, can I turn? Let me take the cap off. You can see it. Can you see it move? Yeah, you can see it move. You can see it's right there, and it's coming up here. So you can kind of gauge the ink level by looking at this, which I think is nice. Now, grip section flutes out here at the end, and we kind of have a gold ring here. And then we have this big, beautiful Pelikan nib, really a nice looking nib. We've got the Pelikan feeding the chick again, and it says 18C-750, so it's 18 karat gold, and we have the nib grade F, and then we have this decoration around the breather hole and the tines. It's a very good looking nib. Big plastic feeder. I believe it's plastic. Let me know if I'm wrong and it's ebonite, but I believe it's plastic. Lots of fins. This is a very wet and juicy nib. That seems to be the standard for these M1000 nibs. Very nice looking. Now, I like to compare it to my 149 nib. However, this 149 is from the 70s, and I don't know, the plating that Montblanc did back then, I guess, was not very good because a lot of the two-tone around this kind of line here came off. So I'm sorry, I don't have the prettiest nib here, but you can kind of see the nibs together. They're very big nibs. The Pelikan is more broad kind of throughout the body, whereas the other one has more of the Montblanc has more of a taper and kind of sharper cuts into with the tines there. So definitely different looks. Okay, so the nib unit is threaded, so you can change these out. I can't remember the price of these nibs. I think they're like $400 maybe. Maybe they're $300, but really expensive. But, again, flagship pen, they're going to be expensive. This is a fantastic nib. Compared with the Montblanc is, you can't change the nib without a special tool, and I believe if you do that, it voids the warranty unless it's done by Montblanc service center. And I don't know if they sell nibs, whereas this you can get in all sorts of different grades of nibs. So if you want some kind of special nib from the factory, it's more likely, I think, that you'll get it from Pelikan than from Montblanc. Now, let's do some measurements. 144 millimeters. Uncapped, it's about 135. Posted, I don't know. I don't recommend posting this pen. I mean, maybe if you have really big hands, then that might make sense, but not for me. 174, 173, that is super long. It does post nicely, I will say. It feels very secure. I never do it though. Now, in terms of the grip section, it kind of does taper down a little bit at the end here. 11.3, so that's quite a wide grip section. 12.2. Now, one thing I will say is, compared with the Montblanc 149, the nibs are basically the same length. The grip section on the 149 is quite a bit fatter. So, I'm at like the narrowest point here, 12.8. For me, I don't have huge hands. I find this wider grip section more comfortable. It makes the angle of the nib, I think, a little bit more comfortable for me. The Pelikan M1000 is still, I think, a very comfortable pen, although I do get tired quicker with this pen. It's also a heavier pen, so that might be part of it too. So speaking of the weight, let's do the weight. 134.25 versus the Montblanc. This has ink in it, 29.48. So again, if you like a heavier pen too, this could be a better option. Now, uncapped, 23.9. So it's a heavy pen. I believe the components in the piston mechanism are metal versus plastic in the Montblanc. So that definitely does give it more of a heft for sure. It is a heavier pen and it's a longer pen, but it's not so heavy that it's uncomfortable to write with, I think, for a long period of time. 4 pages of writing with this pen is fine. I do get a bit further with the Montblanc 149 though. Let's do the writing sample. So this is the Pelikan M1000, and it's a fine, and this is Waterman Absolute Brown, and this is try fast writing. Yeah, I don't really have any performance issues with this pen. It is a very soft nib, so you can get some line variation up to a point. You can see it railroad there, but for the most part, it keeps up pretty nicely. In terms of reverse writing, it seems to do it. It's not actually too scratchy either. It's somewhat well finished. So it does reverse writing. That softness, it's just very soft. These nibs are very wet. So I would recommend, this is a fine, but it's quite a wet and wide fine. It really writes more like a medium. So I recommend going down a size. I expected about a medium, out of this, and I think that's about right. So what are my pros and cons for the Pelikan M1000 fountain pen? The biggest pro here is definitely the large nib. This nib is, I think, the star of the show, the reason to buy this pen. It gives you a very unique writing experience. It is a very soft nib, and I think it is definitely the most special nib in the current Pelikan lineup. I really like that Pelikan makes this nib in a lot of different grades. I think it goes all the way up to something like triple broad, which is super wide. The nibs are threaded, and you can buy them separately. They're not cheap, but you can buy them separately and swap them out. That is, I think, a really nice feature. When you compare this to its main competitor, the Montblanc 149, you cannot change the nib yourself. You need a special tool, which I don't think consumers are supposed to have, and if you were to change the nib yourself, I think you're voiding the warranty, and I also don't know if Montblanc will sell you 149 nibs directly. So you get a lot more options with this pen than the 149. I really also like the styling of this pen. It is, the classic Pelikan 400 look, but they blew it up and they kept the proportions, as far as I can tell, the same, and I think it looks really good. It's a really nice classic looking pen, and I think it is a worthy pen of a flagship status, and I think it's a very good competitor for the Montblanc 149. So they did a great job with this pen. So what are my cons for the M1000? Well, the biggest con is the price. Retail, I think, is over $1,000. Street price is $800 or $900. Very, very expensive pen. Now that is in line with Montblanc pricing. For a period of time, you could get these gray market for around $400. At $400, it's worth every penny. $800, $900, that's a lot of money. It is a unique nib, but it's very expensive. These nibs are also very wet. I recommend going down a size or 2 sizes from what you normally like. This is a wet nib, there's no getting around it. The other con I would say is when compared to the Montblanc 149, the grip section is thinner, and because this nib is so long, I don't personally find it quite as comfortable as the 149, especially when writing for a long period of time. If you have bigger hands, you hold the pen at a different angle than me, might not be a problem. I do find this to be comfortable, but it's not quite as comfortable for me as the 149. Okay, so those are my pros and cons for the Pelikan M1000. Do you guys have this pen? Do you like this pen? Let me know in the comments section below. If you like this video, please hit that like button, and if you want to see more fountain pen, paper, and ink videos, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much, and until next time.